Hi guys, it's Dr. Joy here and you are watching Delivering Joy MD TV. Welcome to Super Mama Sunday, where we're going to be talking about a really important topic. So you may notice that I have a very special guest with me today. This is attorney Kim Freeman, who specializes in human resources law. So I'm going to be talking with Kim today. We're going to have a conversation about family medical leave, which is very important when you are becoming a parent. So we're going to be going through some of those things today. So make sure you keep watching to learn more about this important topic. So today we're going to be talking about Family Medical Leave Act and parental rights. Such an important conversation, and I don't think there's any special guest that I could have found that would be better to discuss this topic than attorney Kim Freeman. She is an Ohio employment lawyer, and during the pandemic, she did a pirouette and became an entrepreneur. So she helps people and companies figure out the laws about human resources and employment. She has a firm called Above the Rim Human Resources, and she has a hashtag which I love so much. It's hashtag Kim Above the Rim. So she is doing great things in the world of human resources law. I am so pleased to be joined by Kim Freeman today. Hi, Kim.
Hi, so happy to be here.
So we are talking today via Zoom, and we wanted to talk to you guys about family medical leave. Prior to becoming an employment lawyer, believe it or not, Kim was an award-winning journalist. So she's going to be talking to us today a little bit about her journey, and we are going to marry that with your journey in becoming a parent. So welcome, Kim. I'm so glad to have you.
I am thrilled to be here. This is a topic very near and dear to my own heart. I'm a mother of three. They're all grown now. But I was in that position of, what happens when you are a woman working outside the home and you are going to need time off to have your baby, to recover, to bond. So this is an extremely important topic, and I think that people may be aware that it's being talked about even more so on lots of different levels, including the federal level, about instituting a paid family medical leave. So this is crucial, and I am just thrilled to be here. I'm so happy you asked me.
Well, I am so happy that you said yes, because I think this is such an important topic. I see it a lot in my office. But before we get into this, I just have to ask, how did you make that change from an award-winning journalist to then going back to law school and becoming an employment attorney? Just such a varied degree of experience. I mean, I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for asking. It really begins even before I was school age. My father went to law school during my earliest memories, like between the ages of 3 and 6. And what happened there was it was almost like I was imprinted, like how a baby duck is imprinted upon his mother. These notions of fairness and equity and justice under the law became part of the family conversation when I was very young. So that instilled in me just a heart for service, that people are hurting in certain ways, and there are things that you can do to help them. So I had always thought, I'll be a lawyer. I'll be a lawyer, like my dad. He had even, he had a sense of humor. So he had taught me at age 3 or 4, if people asked what I wanted to be, to say shyster. Now that's a term that is not complimentary. He thought it was hysterical. I was like, what's so funny? Years later, I was like, oh, okay, that was
telling everybody I'm a shyster.
yeah, that's cute. And by the time high school came around, My teachers recognized that I had a talent for writing, and they encouraged me at that time. They said, you really need to go to journalism school. And if you want to be a lawyer, fine, but this is really going to set a foundation even for that endeavor, right? Because lawyers, a lot of what lawyers do is write, obviously, but what they do first is they research, they investigate, they distill it all down into facts and then apply the law, right? So, it's like, oh, this is kind of a no-brainer, just go to journalism school. So I did that at Indiana University, and I found that I just really enjoyed it, and it also met that that passion for service, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of times when people have disputes or problems or issues, whether it's with their city or their school or each other, if they can't get it resolved, they don't call a lawyer first, typically. A lot of times they call the press, right?
Yeah, that definitely happened.
Right? I was a newspaper reporter. I was a magazine editor. I did some copy editing. I worked in Kentucky and West Virginia and New York. I was out in California for a bit. But the siren song of law was always in the back of my head. So after about 10 years of being a journalist, I said, it's time. I'm not getting any younger here. And interestingly enough, I think certainly because of the topic that we're talking about, I started law school with a toddler that I was potty training, and I was nursing a newborn. That's how I started law school.
Wow. So this definitely is a topic that I know is near and dear to your heart. I have a few questions for you, but if you think of anything that I'm not asking that would really benefit parents, I would love for you to add that in. I can tell you, Kim, that what I see a lot in my office is that I have patients who maybe work a job and they're docked these points. They're on this point system, and they're docked points every time they come in for a prenatal visit. If the partner wants to come in, there's all these stipulations about, okay, well, you can't leave work to go to appointments, and how many points they have kind of dictates how many appointments they can actually come to. So we've had to do all sorts of just gymnastics to accommodate a lot of these parents, and I think it's really sad, because certainly getting good prenatal care is important, and having your partner involved with that is also important. So can you just kind of speak a little bit to the state of what the laws, generally, because I know that you're not in my state of Georgia, but just generally, how does the law support or not support moms and parents?
I mean, obviously, everything we're talking about is a matter of information purposes, not giving legal advice.
Right.
And I want to make sure I say that. So have you ever heard the term crazy quilt? That's where if your grandmother's quilting circle, they put all their scraps in a pile.
Yes.
And they just start sewing, right?
Right.
That is the state of the law in the United States of America regarding different types of leave at all, and certainly those connected to pregnancy and birth.
Wow.
So as you noted, the laws in Georgia are different potentially than the laws in Ohio, where I am, different than the laws in California or New York. So it's an extremely hard question to answer. Also, even if you have a law like, let's take the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. That's a federal law. So it applies to everyone, right?
Right.
Good enough. But it doesn't say what a lot of people think it says. Oh, I can't be fired because I'm pregnant. It does not say that. That law does not say that. All that law says is if a business allows other people time off for short-term disability reasons, like Bob broke his leg skiing, he gets 6 weeks off, and to recover. Then you, as a pregnant woman, could take a similar 6 weeks off and not be terminated because of it. That's basically what the Pregnancy Discrimination Act is. Some people will go, well, wait a minute, what about, Title VII, sex discrimination? Isn't that discrimination against me as a woman? But unfortunately, no, it doesn't protect you in that way. And what gets complicated is that some people can live in jurisdictions, though, where maybe the state is giving you more protections, or telling employers, you must let them off for prenatal visits, you must let their partner off, and then certainly provide some leave afterwards. So there could be local jurisdictions that allow that. There could be state laws. So it's just a crazy quilt of potential legal coverage, right?
So it's more like a hodgepodge. So even though there is the Federal Pregnancy Discrimination Act, each state is kind of piecing together what they decide that means.
They have to follow the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, but then they can give additional protections, right, to women. They can make it part of their discrimination law if they want to say, thou shalt not discriminate because someone is pregnant, right?
Right.
In a different manner than what the Pregnancy Discrimination Act says. And so they can give even more coverage than the federal law. They just can't.
I know recently in Georgia, there was a lactation law that was passed that said that, you have to allow lactating women time to pump or feed, and that you have to grant those, feeding times regularly or pumping times regularly so that they can continue to breastfeed, which I think is great. I guess one of the big issues that I see folks trying to navigate is leave during to the time for their birth in their postpartum period, and not only leave for the birthing person but also for the partner, and it seems like partners get a lot less time off, and so they have the poor birther has all the responsibility at home, because the partner has to go back to work in a week or two. I think probably the most I've seen is 2. What sort of things are you seeing in the federal conversation about parental leave?
Okay, well, I want to take a step back just very quickly, and make sure that people understand. Let's talk about the Family Medical Leave Act, right? That Family Medical Leave Act is, number one, unpaid, and it's 12 weeks, but it only applies to certain employees, right? The company has to have over 50 employees before it's even triggered. You have to work a certain number of hours before you're eligible. Now that is available for leave for parents, but then there's other restrictions on it, right? And there's also restrictions if you and your partner happen to work at the same place, how many weeks you can take and so forth.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So, I'll sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask because, I work in a small town and we have several large employers, and I have often had patients whose partner works at the same hospital. So there are different limits on who can take what and how many weeks they can get?
Yeah, there's potentially, and the law is fairly complicated. So when it comes to FMLA, you need to make sure, if you are covered by it, that you read your employee handbook about FMLA and how it works and what you are entitled to if you work in the same, if you and your partner potentially work at the same business, how that works as well, because there can be rules that limit how much time is taken and whether it has to be shared. And I mean, So it's complicated. I wanted to make the point about the employee handbook in particular, because that's where a person wants to start. If they have questions about whether it's time that they get for their prenatal appointments to the time after the baby is born, right? That's where the conversation begins, is what are your policies? So you look at the policy first. And if you have questions, and hopefully you have an HR professional there who can field those, you go to HR and you start working it out, right? You mentioned points. Oftentimes very small businesses, that's how they run, and they run a point system where there's nothing that says, well, this is unexcused or something. They just use it for if you're out of the office, right?
Right.
And so that's frustrating for people. They're like, but yeah, I got to go to this appointment. Like, this is legit. And they're like,
right. This is not like hanging out of work.
Yeah, we're just looking overall. So what an employer has done there is just said, listen, I don't want to have to evaluate, a good excuse versus one that may not be. So we'll just give points for absences, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it becomes very complicated, like you say, especially in the realm of prenatal care. So what pregnant women need to be especially aware of is the potential that if they need additional prenatal appointments because you're concerned as their doctor about their blood pressure or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there are other avenues that may protect them and give them the time they need, give them the accommodation to do that without harming their job, their absenteeism or their points or so forth. They're protected at that point, or potentially protected, I want to be very clear, with under the Americans with Disabilities Act, right?
Okay.
They potentially, because of some condition, need extra reasonable accommodation.
And I've done that before. I have had folks have an HR professional that says, hey, you should get her to do a short-term disability packet for you so that we can list out all of your appointment dates and times, because some of these folks really need to be in the office every week or every other week.
Right.
So they really do, they're going to run out of points very quickly and still need additional care. So thank you for explaining that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
You actually asked me about parental leave, and there is an ongoing discussion. It looks better than it ever has in terms of a robust parental leave policy, potentially paid from a federal level. But I guess given the gridlock in Congress and the existence of the filibuster, I can't hold out a lot of hope that we're going to see that.
Wow.
And it's a shame, because we're probably, I think, the one, if not the only industrialized country that doesn't have parental leave protections. So it's really, you kind of have to piecemeal together what's going to happen. As an HR professional, I just really encourage people to have those conversations, with their employer first. Like, okay, we got to figure this out. Like, especially if they want to return to work, right? Like, hey, yes, I'm going to have a baby. I'm planning to return to work. If all goes well and, my recovery and so forth, I want to come back to work. So let's plan what that's going to look like. Mm-hmm. Here's what I need. And I can tell you, as an employment lawyer and an HR professional, it is costly to replace employees. So most employers are not interested in going, no, I found a way, it's within my rights because this law doesn't apply or that law doesn't apply, so I'm just going to let you go. That's pretty rare, because it is so expensive to gin up the hiring machine, get someone in, train them, and so forth. No, they'd rather keep they much rather keep the people they have.
Right.
So if a woman is pregnant and this should just be part of her planning, is to go to the employer and say, okay, let's talk about what this is going to look like, and the employer is going to appreciate the fact that you're saying, hey, I recognize that I have to be out of the office. I want to do as much as possible to minimize the upset at work. So let's work together. That's really where you start.
I think that's super important. And you mentioned that we're the only industrialized nation that does not have paid parental leave, or at least one of the only ones that doesn't. And so I was actually recording a talk yesterday for the Georgia Commission on Women's Health. And when you said that, it jarred my memory, because I was talking about how the U.S. is also the worst industrialized nation in which to become pregnant and birth in terms of our maternal morbidity and mortality rates. So pregnant folks getting very sick, pregnant folks dying. I wonder how much this plays a role in it for those folks who really have some serious medical conditions during their pregnancy or even after their pregnancy, and they're just so worried about, what am I going to do with my job? And no, I won't be able to make that appointment. I can't tell you how many folks don't make their postpartum appointment, but they just call in and say, can I have a letter to go back to work, because I need to work and I can't be off. So that's a huge concern. So I really do hope that there are, I know there are always avenues for advocacy to really try and push some bipartisan support for parental leave. I think that's going to be majorly important. And another thing that we see so much now is pregnant folks with anxiety and depression, and they're kind of left to their own devices. I see a lot of folks who are like, well, my partner works full time, did not get any parental leave. I'm at home. I've got, a baby that's breastfeeding, and I have a toddler, and I'm just overwhelmed, and I can't, I don't have any family to help me. So it just becomes a real big deal when both partners are not able to be home during that initial phase in order to get into a good routine, to taking care of their family.
Exactly. And then if you layer on top of that the crisis in childcare that we have in this country, which is another issue, that we must address as a society, that if people are not sure about the quality and care that the children are receiving, it makes it very difficult for women in particular to go back to work and to be able to give their all, to their career, while also having a family.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these topics kind of, fold in on one another. They're just like, a three-legged stool, right?
Right.
You have to have them all in order to improve outcomes that you were mentioning in terms of, maternal health, and also, the leave that's needed to get that new family off to the best start, and then to allow people to return to work in a way that they feel confident that they can do so.
I've been seeing, I think mainly because of the pandemic, but I've been seeing a lot of moms that are working from home during their pregnancy and after birthing. And I think that the pandemic kind of pushed a lot of companies into doing that, but I think it's been very helpful, actually, because there's not, they can come in for their appointments and they're saying, oh, well, I'm working from home, or I'm working from home. The problem really comes into play when you have these essential workers who are our factory workers, our delivery folks, our grocery store workers, people who have to be in person to perform their job duties. That's where I really find the bulk of the problem with family medical leave and short-term disability, because they may not necessarily have those things, with their jobs. Are there any, other than the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, are there any protections for these folks from the federal level that you're aware of?
There truly is not. If they're not covered by, if their job is not protected by Family Medical Leave Act, then they don't have job protections unless, as I mentioned, an ADA situation, right?
Right.
Where they can be reasonably accommodated.
Okay.
So
does pregnancy qualify as a disability?
Typically not just a normal pregnancy. When it comes into play, and especially the interplay between the Family Medical Leave Act and ADA, say a woman has given birth, she's covered by FMLA, she has, say, 8 weeks left of FMLA coverage because she used some, prior. If she has an issue, a medical issue, potentially, after birth, for whatever reason, you're the doctor, I'm sure you could fill us in on all whatever might happen, that would require her to have more time off than what the FMLA provides. Then it could be that you would help her with that paperwork that says, yes, I am disabled now because of some event from birth or giving birth, and I need a reasonable accommodation. And that reasonable accommodation could be just more time off. Now, you can't do that, for a long length of time. Some courts say, another, even as much as 6 months might be a reasonable accommodation. It's all very fact specific, depending on what kind of job you have.
Depending on and what happened to her, like her.
Exactly. And your employer can always come back and say, well, wait a minute. I can't find a reasonable accommodation for for these reasons. And it's a hardship, and here's why. So it's never like a given. But a lot of times, I will tell you, in my experience as an employment lawyer and an HR professional, my advice is typically, listen, you should do what you can to find a reasonable accommodation.
Right. So our employers should be doing everything they can to try and help us. And I think, it's so interesting because we get into legislating morality in this country a lot, unfortunately. And it's just like, hey, this person is on my team. This person is a member of my community. They are becoming new parents, or they're becoming parents, for the second or third or whatever time. And I need to just try to help as much as I can. I mean, I understand that business is business, but if there is a way that you can retain a good employee, and you can also be a community builder, right, by getting that family off to a good start, I just think we should do it. And I think it's kind of sad that we, would even need to have laws regarding that. Of course, people will always have, if they have an opportunity, they may try to take advantage of it. So I get it. But I think that a lot of families really do suffer because there is no uniformed approach to, parental leave.
Absolutely. You hit it nail on the head there. And what I tell businesses is you really ought to adopt policies that don't manage from the exception. Yeah, there's always going to be exceptions that someone has taken advantage, or you feel like they have, or something. Don't base your policy on trying to answer the exceptions. Okay? Base your policy on sound business practices that support and engage your employees, because think about it. People typically, most of us have to have a paycheck, right? Fund my life, right?
Check, yeah.
They're not showing up to work just out of like, I love doing this and it wouldn't matter if you pay me or not. Now, they may love doing it, but, they have bills to pay. So right. I try to encourage employers to understand the relationship with their employees. Like, this is one of the most significant things in a person's life, is how they fund that life, right?
Right.
So if you want the best talent and you want the employees that are engaged and productive and happy at work, then your policies need to support them in a way that makes sense. And one of them is, family leave, parental leave. And so I encourage people to have as robust a policy as possible. Any client that has this point system, all that, I'm like, that needs to go.
Amen.
It's just unreasonable, and who wants to track it and so forth. And if you have a PTO policy, a paid leave policy, have some flexibility that if someone runs through their paid leave but they're pregnant and they need to attend prenatal care, even if you want them to have a doctor's note every time, like you want, okay, I know you need to go, I'll give you unpaid leave for that. Say you're not under a FMLA situation I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Then require a note. But the flexibility and being an employer that truly cares about those that work there is the right thing to do as a human being. Yeah, it's the right thing to do for the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. I have read in articles where working moms are actually some of the most efficient employees.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. We figure out how to get things done.
Get it done, right? They know exactly how to get it done. They know how to manage time. They got 2 or 3 things going at once. Exactly. So I've read that is true, and I certainly believe that. You touched on a point that I think was really important about people making policy based on sound business practices and not necessarily on their own biases, about women. I can recall years ago when I was going into medical school, we were told that people had the right to, people did not have the right to ask us about when we were planning to have a baby and that sort of thing. So some employers can certainly have some biases when it comes to hiring people who have the potential to become pregnant.
Yeah, now that is covered under law. Like, you can't do that.
Okay. So you can't do that. So no one should be telling you can't get pregnant. So that's
shouldn't be asking anything like that.
Anything like that. So what if the person looks pregnant? Can we ask and say, hey, are you pregnant? No. Right. So no one should even be asking you that if you are going to apply for a job or a position. Even if you look like you might be pregnant, there should not be a discussion about that.
There should be no discussion. You have no obligation either to reveal that during the application process and so forth. That's none of your employer's business. Now, that would be discrimination based on sex. That's a no-no. You cannot do that. And an employer needs to make sure that no hiring is ever based on, their speculation that someone might be pregnant.
Yeah.
And I would say, my advice to applicants who maybe are in early stages of pregnancy is not to disclose it, because potentially it could be used, even if they come up with another reason why
right. I've learned that bosses could be bullies.
Unfortunately, there are some out there like that.
Yeah, some bosses are really bullies, and I've contacted a few bosses just because I'm just like, hey, this lady needs to get here. This is super important. If we need to fill out paperwork or do letters or whatever, she's afraid of losing her job and not being able to feed her family. But I'm afraid that she's gonna be sickened to death if we don't do something.
Right.
Keep a close eye on her. So I've had to call, and most have been very reasonable, but I have run up against a few that are just
Yeah.
like, very resistant to allowing her to to participate in prenatal care or have additional time off. So it's been very interesting. What do you say to parents who are trying to navigate a circumstance like that? Like, hey, I've got my employee handbook. I know I'm covered by FMLA. My boss is just very resistant, doesn't want to give me any sort of special accommodations. What would be your advice to those folks?
Well, if they speculate that there is some legal rights that are being violated, the very first thing they need to do, if they're a large enough company that they're covered by FMLA, then generally they're going to have an HR department.
Right.
And so I would say that in writing, in an email, you put down your concerns. And I'm not suggesting at all, I want to make sure that everyone understands. I am not like go in there guns blazing, these are my rights. Like, if you have those rights, then they're there. But typically, when you want to just get to a solution, the best thing to do is to calmly, succinctly lay out what your concern is, what you believe, the law to be, because most people are not going to be attorneys.
Right.
Potentially you could have it wrong, right? So the best thing to do is just to set forth in a very non-confrontational way, like, hey, this is the situation. This is the problem I'm having. It seems to me X, Y, and Z applies. Can you explain to me why then I was denied A, B, and C, right? That's where you start, because that may be all it's needed to resolve the problem.
Right.
It may be that a manager, you're potentially dealing with a manager who doesn't understand, right? And didn't go ask. And then the HR person goes, oh, well, wait a minute. Well, of course, A, B, and C, right? Like, I'll speak to your manager. So I think it's important that people take a breath, because, the quicker that things escalate into like the BFD, big deal. So,
No, we don't want the BFDs. We don't want the
we
big
well, people get very much then cemented into their position, right? They want to be right, and you're not going to tell me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be that this is a partnership with your employer.
Right.
Now, are there employers out there that are inherently unreasonable, potentially not in compliance? Unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be, if that initial conversation doesn't, help with a solution, you may have to escalate that up to your state civil rights, office, or the EEOC. I would say if you know an attorney, one in your family, there's even attorneys who give free consultations.
Right.
You could call them up and say, what do you think about this? Am I covered by something, or are they within their rights? Mm-hmm. Because as we talked about from the beginning, there may be situations where you can be fired while pregnant. There absolutely may be. There may be no coverage for you under anything. So then, or if you're not in a position where you think, well, I can't afford a lawyer anyway, or whatever, try your legal aid office, right? Mm-hmm. Try, other avenues that you can go down, that you could get the support and the help that you need to work through.
The legal aid, I think, is a really good suggestion. And I love what you said about laying things out in writing and avoiding that. You want to state the facts without being super aggressive, because I've learned that over the years, is that when you're willing to just come to the table with your concerns and with your requests in a way that is respectful, but speaks to the truth of the situation, it's usually much better received. And like you said, just because your manager told you something does not mean that your human resources leader or even their superior is going to say the same thing. They just may not be aware of what the rules are, the laws are. So that's why it's important to have a human resources professional within that company. So the human resources professional may then look at your request and say, oh yeah, this is something that we're supposed to do. This is supposed to be covered, and grant you that. But if you come out swinging, people either do two things: they duck from you, or they hit you back. So right. I would say, the best way to start is, in a reasonable, respectful tone, and then escalate up the chain if you need to. So thank you so much for explaining that. I think that's a really great way to do it. And the importance of putting things in writing is that, now you have a paper trail, you have documentation that you attempted to negotiate, you attempted to ask questions, you attempted to have your needs met in a professional and respectful way.
Yeah, it's really a good habit to get into, since you are going to need some extra time away from work, because of your pregnancy and potentially the delivery, is to just keep notes. Keep notes of when your prenatal appointments were. Keep notes regarding, additional need for time off. Very often, your company is going to require that you request that time off in writing anyway, but right. You should keep an electronic paper trail regarding these needs during pregnancy.
And the other thing you can do to be proactive, because I really like when folks are proactive, when you take charge of this thing and you make it what it needs to be. One thing that I've been doing at my office is we make the appointments out in advance.
Right.
So once we get, to third trimester and we know that you're going to have twice monthly appointments, we go ahead and just schedule those out so that you can then take your appointment list to work and say, hey, here are all my remaining dates for my appointments. And I'm going to, these are the dates that I'm going to be needing to go to the doctor. Now, obviously, anything can change. You might not be available, or something may happen at your doctor's office and they need to reschedule you. But by being proactive, I think it sets a stage for your employer to feel more confident that you're not just trying to blow off work because you are tired, or you're pregnant and you don't want to be there. I think that by taking a proactive role, you're able to do things in a way that really supports not only your own health, but also it supports your work environment and your team that you work with.
Exactly. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, having that conversation. Mm-hmm. You can go to that first or second appointment, get that list. That can be part of the conversation. Like, hey, I'm submitting this right now. Now, obviously, I could need more if there's a situation where the healthcare professionals, say so. Mm-hmm. But for right now, here are my doctor's appointments. I rarely would have worked with an employer client that wouldn't be thrilled. Like, oh, okay, right?
That's awesome.
You let your manager know, and it's on the schedule. And you're able to make sure that any meetings during that, like, no, that time's blocked off, so that's not a good time for a meeting. Let me schedule it here or have a phone call there. So I think that's a really essential point in having, the appropriate conversation with the employer.
Yeah, and I also see patients like if you have a day off, that's a weekday, just those it's totally okay to ask your OB care provider to schedule on those days so that you don't have to worry
Excellent.
about the time, the taking the time off or, in some cases I've seen folks go to a slightly different schedule. Like instead of working Monday through
Right.
Friday, I work Tuesday through Saturday. And that way every Monday I'm off and I can do what I need to do, whether that's running around and going to the doctor's office or getting things ready in my nursery or whatever it is that you need to
Yeah.
do,
No,
you can certainly take charge of that.
great
Before we
job.
wrap up, I want to ask you this question.
All right.
You talked about not disclosing pregnancy if you are in your early stages and you're looking for employment. You don't have to disclose it. You said you'd recommend that they don't disclose it. What is the opportune time to actually go to your employer? In your opinion, when should I go to my employer and say, hey, we're expecting a baby. I want to lay out my appointment schedule with you. I want to talk about what we'll need to do for my office visits, for my FMLA, if I have that. And for my time out of work, I really want to return to work. I want to be a productive member of the team towards, through the end of my pregnancy and to come back, to the team once I have delivered my baby and had my time off. When would you say? Should it be maybe mid-pregnancy, close to the end of pregnancy, or what have you seen in your experience as an HR professional?
Okay. I hate to pull out the ultimate lawyer response here, but I'm going to have to.
Okay.
It depends.
That's the
There are
favorite.
so many factors to consider in that question. So, because you're going to have reviewed your personnel policies, right? If
Mhm.
there's no policies, at the very least, you're going to see how they've treated other women in a similar situation.
Right. Ask around.
Right. So you're going to, have an understanding about potentially what your needs are, your appointments, and so forth. So if I'm working for an employer that has a very robust parental leave policy, or maternity leave, parental leave policy, and it's right in the book. So I know all about it, and all the questions have been answered, and there's FMLA, and there's this and that. Well, you probably are like, I can tell them anytime, right? Because this is an employer that's already addressed all of this. There's already policies in place. So that conversation is a lot easier, and you
Right.
don't have as much fear around it. But if you're working for a much smaller employer and you're not quite sure, how this is going to work, you may want to wait longer, right? Especially
Right.
if you do have some paid leave time, or that you can go to some of those early appointments without, you can just take off and you don't have to be concerned about saying why or anything else. You may want to wait but I would advise everyone, don't you're carrying this pregnancy in a way that they don't know till the 8th month. Don't Try not to do that. Try not to spring it on an employer. Oh, by the way,
Right.
I'm
Oh,
going,
hey, I'm going to be out for 6 weeks starting today. Bye.
bye, see you later, peace out.
Mhm.
Don't do that. That's just going to upset people, even if you're protective, like that you'll get this time off and there's not a lot they can do about it, whatever. Don't do that. Again, it goes back to having that conversation, so you are a partner with your employer, so that there's goodwill on both sides.
Not to mention
Regarding,
your team would be pretty ticked off at you because they're going
right?
to be a shorter person, and
Yeah,
that speaks to our own character and integrity as a worker, right? Because
right.
we want to do the best work that we can possibly do. We want to, whether we enjoy our employer or our employment or not, how
Uh-huh.
we work is says more about our character and our integrity, regardless of the job. So you don't
Right.
want to just
Yeah,
leave
I would be,
everybody hanging.
yeah, I'd be surprised if you could get much past your fifth month without
Right.
having
Most
that
people are going to be
conversation.
showing, and it can be difficult, but I do think it is important to have that conversation. But I think it's also very important to know that the law protects you from having to disclose that you are planning to become pregnant or that you are pregnant. But in good faith, if you really want to continue to be a part of the team at your job, I think you do need to have that conversation eventually, so that everyone is prepared, specifically if you work in a team-based setting where your presence will be missed for that amount of time, or if there are things that you can do to help your team on the front end so that they are able to keep thriving without you while you take some time to birth and have time at home and to bond with your baby and to recover. So I think that those things are important. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I think this was such an awesome discussion, and I think that lots of folks will benefit from this. Before we go, do you have any resources that are your go-to? Like, let's say you want to look at different laws in each of the states. Is there like a website that's available to the public where we could maybe look at some of the various employment laws for pregnancy and parental leave in different states?
There certainly are. I would suggest starting at the federal level with the EEOC, right?
Okay.
The Employment Opportunity Commission. In terms of your individual state, thank goodness for Google. Now, I don't recommend that you become a Google lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but you can certainly put in to the search bar, pregnancy laws, Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or pregnancy discrimination, Georgia, or, family leave, and insert your state. Remember, too, you might want to insert your local jurisdiction, because a big city like Atlanta may give more rights than even Georgia law, okay? So you'll want to do both. Now, I want to just caution that, it's good to have the information, but, sometimes the information can mislead you because you go, oh, okay, that's what the law says. But laws are impacted by what we call case law, right? So if there are challenges to the law, or somebody says, okay, I believe you discriminated against me because of my sex or pregnancy or something, and they bring a claim and that is adjudicated, in that case law, it could interpret the law you're reading in a way that you don't know. Like you may think you know what it says, but then the court has said, oh, no, it says this. This is what it means.
Oh, wow. So it comes down to the interpretation of the court. And then you have like these because I watch a lot of legal TV, right? So you have this precedent is set in this way. And then the attorney can go back and say, oh, well, in case such and such, such and such,
right,
the court decided it was this. So even though the letter of the law may be written one way, the interpretation might be different.
It could be, and often very, it's very fact specific. So I would just say it's great that we can go out there and we can see a lot of information. You can read the law, but you want to be very careful about, suggesting that you absolutely know what it means. That's why when I mentioned going to HR and saying, I believe it appears the law says this, this, and this, and I'm supposed to get X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. That way you can start that conversation. You don't come from a place of...
A term I've learned is humble inquiry. So we're asking humble questions. We think we know the answer, but we're asking because it could be different. And just like you said, we don't want Google lawyers. We get that all the time. One of my patients gave me a really cute mug that says, please don't confuse your Google search with my medical degree.
Yes, yes. They have those for lawyers too.
Don't confuse your Google search with a law degree. It's
Yeah.
always best to come from a place of humble inquiry. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kim. It was such an awesome conversation and so helpful for
Absolutely.
me, and I hope it was helpful for all of you. And we will see you next time on Super Mama Sunday. Don't forget to find Kim at hashtag Kim Above the Rim or AboveTheRimHR.com. We'll see you next week, girls. Peace.